So yeah, we're 2 episodes into The Stand. I am loving it. I legitimately am enjoying the show, but I am not liking the structure. It is bothering me. I think I'm understanding why they're doing it, but it is bugging the hell out of me. And to me, it's ruining some of the storylines. Um, what are you guys thinking?
I
I
I don't know. I I think that that we've mentioned a couple things about how it's developing individual characters and how it's kind of taking you on this journey, but not. I don't. I think that I feel like these last two episodes are leading us to this place. They're trying to us have each individual character take us on this journey to where they're all, meeting. But I don't know that are these the only characters we're going to get now? Or are
Well,
they going to do this multiple times?
that's what's
I don't know.
bothering me is you're already showing me the place. You're showing me Mother Abigail. You're showing me, you know what I mean? Like we're already we're there, and then you're giving me the little backstory. Look, the backstories are great, and we're going to get into Larry and his story in this episode and how great how much I was into it. But it's the way they're telling it out of order that is it's bothering me, taking me out of it a little bit. I think I'm going to get used to it, another episode or two, but it is at times jarring.
Well, yeah, it bothers me a great deal because it's like, and people have mentioned it before. So this isn't like a fresh take or anything, but there was so much to that journey, and there was so much uncertainty with that journey, and as we were saying before, like there was uncertainty to even whether Mother Abigail is real, and I think I think for people that have never seen The Stand, who don't know what it's about, anyone who's watching the series for the first time, because there's a new generation of people who didn't come up with it the way we did. For them, it takes the mystique away from like, well, is that real? Are they going to find her in Colorado? Some of these dreams are kind of blended, where you see Randall Flagg and Mother Abigail. Like, are they real, or is this the same thing? Are they just overall being deceived by a person? What's going on here? But it's a little odd to lay your cards out on the table, and I like that, and I think they said during an interview, and I don't remember what publication, but the showrunner stated that The Stand isn't necessarily about that journey to Colorado because much of it takes place in Colorado and other places, and from this point onward, that's where you get the meat of the series. But that journey was a big part of it. At least for a lot of people, I think myself included, and the buildup, was was a big part of it because you did have that uncertainty because you did have characters grow into who they are, and it's just a little odd and feels a little too quick to, you know, get a more mature or different version of these characters and then just show flashbacks to who they were. That feels less engaging than seeing these people turn into the people that they would be after this apocalypse.
I don't. It's frustrating to me that, like you just said, you have to get an interview to get an understanding of why they're doing the show the way they are. I shouldn't have to reach outside of the content to get an understanding of the content itself. And that to me is where my issue with this series forms. It, you just, well, I got an interview with the creator and he is saying that this is what he is trying to do. I shouldn't have to get that. I should be able to get that understanding from the content that they're presenting to me. I shouldn't have to reach outside of that content to gain an understanding of what they're trying to show me.
I 100% agree with you. There's a series of books I won't bring up, where that have the same problem. Like, you should be able to, within whatever media it is you're watching or engaging with, you should be able to get the full breadth of the story and understand the whys and it should make sense chronologically, because it almost feels like they played it this way because they're like, well, people are already very familiar with it, and it's like, well, there's a generation of people who aren't, and even though and it's clear the writing's good, because none of us are complaining about the writing necessarily. It's more the way that they're presenting this. The fact that they're sort of playing it like a Tarantino film to a degree, where you're going back and forth. It's.
I would be interested, anybody who's listening, if you've never seen the original miniseries or have not read the book and are not familiar with the story, how do you feel about the structure? Because I would be interested in someone who doesn't have a history with it. Is it working for you? Is the storytelling working for you? I am curious about that.
Well, yeah, I know I have some younger relatives that I would be angry if it was presented to them this way, and it's like, oh, you don't know this and that.
But yeah, this is Pulp Mythos. I'm Brian here with Larry and Spencer, and yes, we are
Not
discussing.
that. It's a different Larry.
Yes, true. Good point.
Yeah, we're not getting my story.
I am going to have to distinguish. Good point. I'll just This is not Larry Underwood. This is I'm here with Larry from Pulp Mythos, and yeah, we're discussing the second episode of The Stand, titled Pocket Savior. This episode introduced some new characters and basically gave us sort of their journey somewhat. Those characters being, let's see here, Larry Underwood, Rita, Nadine, Joe, and Lloyd. And we're going to go into all of them, starting with Larry. Larry Underwood is sort of the central focus of the episode. Oh,
imagine that headline, though. Larry Underwood goes on, like, actor who plays Larry Underwood goes on little known podcast in order to complain about not going in chronological order in The Stand.
We get introduced to this character. He's an addict. He's a drug addict. He's a musician. We get introduced to his mother, his agent, an old roommate who he stole material from, Wayne, who till the bitter end is trying to take out Larry Underwood. He's an interesting character, and we get to see his perspective of being in a large city and seeing the end of days, everyone dying, and it's a hell of a journey. Very Stephen King, all of his scenes. Just general impressions with Larry, and that's why this is such a pain in the ass, also because the order in which they tell his story. So, okay, by the way, Larry hooks up with a group of people thanks to Harold, and it leads him to Colorado, where he meets Stu, and then is introduced to Mother Abigail. By the way, he was a musician. You know what I mean? Like, I hate this, but the initial impressions of Larry, and then I have a few specifics about him.
Well, I just want to say, it's like, wow, all that sounds interesting. Why didn't we see it?
I thought it was. My thing is okay. The apocalypse happens. This guy has a giant duffel bag full of drugs. How is he not the most popular person in the end times ever? Like, it's he has a giant duffel bag full of drugs, and for a very short period of time, I'm imagining that he would be everyone's favorite person. And then, without the ability to basically reproduce all those said drugs, it would be very he would be everyone's favorite person for a period of time.
Well, yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned the duffel bag, because that's part of what makes it weird that they put it in this format. Because, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but by the time they make it to Colorado, his drug issue is no longer an issue, and it hasn't been for some time.
Yeah, yes. So they sort of had to rush. That's weird because they're giving some details in some areas, and then they're rushing through certain things in others, and that being one of them, his drug problem. They sort of wrapped it up here real quickly. We do get yeah, I'm going to be jumping all around. He meets a character named Rita, and at the ending, you see what she's doing with the drugs. But yeah, no, you're right. Uh, they they should have been more with that. But this is an interesting apocalypse in that you can't. It's not like Walking Dead where you can form these massive gangs because literally everyone's dead. Like the one gang that they encounter is three. It's three guys. That's all that's left. And so people die pretty quickly, and that there isn't a whole lot of worry about those gangs until obviously both groups get to their destinations, and then that's the war to come. But let's talk about Chip Guy real quick. My favorite character of the episode. I call him Chip Man. I don't know, it was just a great scene. He walks up and he's like, "Hey, it's the end times. I'm gonna eat these chips. I'm gonna go. Was he going to
Yankee Stadium.
And he's gonna run around naked and then really have some fun on the home plate.
He's gonna do himself a favor.
Exactly, on home plate. I like the scene. I also like the following scene where Rita's sitting with an all white with an umbrella and just sitting there. It was very Stephen King, bizarre, almost fantasy like the way those scenes all played.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where you just really get the feeling when you see her, like at first, at least my first thought, you get the initial feeling from it that, oh, this is clearly a trap that he's falling for. And then when he talks to her, you get the feeling of, because you're up too much. You're like, this is either a trap or she is uniquely unprepared for what's going on right now. Like, this is not her world. And like you said, the results of the last time they saw each other, we 100% understand that she's, she sees herself as not being built to survive what the world is now. She seems almost to be drifting through life and in shock in a way. Like, she's still maintaining a lot of niceties and pleasantries with Larry throughout their conversations and things, even though all this chaos and decay is happening around them.
She said something that I said, or she alluded to that I said last time. They're saying that 1% of the people are making it through this. That's what their rough estimate of number is. The chances of you making it through with somebody are next to zero. So you're basically starting over. And this end times where to me, the feeling of loneliness with Heather Graham was what we should have been getting throughout this episode, throughout this series. And you said this, Brian, that was the feeling in the original, this journey where they're trying to find themselves, where they're trying to find, a companion, where they're trying to find a purpose to life. We got a little bit of that in this episode, but to me, not enough. That to me is the whole purpose of this story, is trying to find the purpose of life in a end times kind of scenario. And when you saw Heather Graham and her character, that to me is what the struggle would be in this time frame, is trying to find a purpose, trying to find a meaning to life when literally everyone around you, and almost I don't know a scenario where it isn't everyone else would be gone. So for her seeing her struggle with that is I don't know that in that kind of scenario that wouldn't be how I would struggle with it. It's one of those things where it'd be very hard.
Yeah, it's pretty unfathomable, the trauma that most characters in the Stand would have to be going through at the time, and it was a good portrayal of that. She seemed like she was still like mentally kind of in shock about the whole situation, for one, and when they have a moment of peace and are out of the city, it's like it all hits her and everything. And like you said, who's to say how that would turn out for anyone? It's so impossible to comprehend, that sort of situation. And and you're absolutely right. That loneliness, just the fear of the unknown. We didn't get a good build up for that because we're seeing Colorado stuff already. I hate to complain about this the whole episode, but it kind of wrecks that in a way. It kind of takes away from the uncertainty also, because you're like, well, we as the audience, we've seen what happens here.
Yeah. Absolutely. And so last week, yet again, let's talk about Harold briefly. So last week we got to see Franny. Her father passes, and we get a nice moment where she's trying to pay respect to him and have a little funeral. This week we get Larry Underwood's mother passes, and he's with her. He's able to get her out of the hospital and has that moment. Harold's family, we know they died, but they never showed us that moment, and I think that's the storytelling of he didn't give a shit. So we're seeing the people who care, and then we're seeing the one guy who didn't care. So they're telegraphing a little bit these characters and who they are through that kind of storytelling, I think. We also get an interesting scene where when Larry approaches Harold to thank him for leaving those signs, he brings a kid, Joe, along, and there's a lot of mysteries behind Joe, and we're not going to go into any of that because the show hasn't. But Joe starts to freak out a little bit, or he senses something about Harold when they he brings up Franny. So the show is yet again it's pointing, yeah, Harold's a bad guy, and we're getting more and more of that.
It's like how very Stephen King.
Yes.
That moment.
Yes. Yes, exactly. But going back to Larry's journey, when let's talk about the sewer sequence. So I love that he's like, we'll pretend we're Ninja Turtles. But when he goes down in there, and then that's when him and Rita split up for a while, and then they come back together shortly after that. But he's going through the sewers, and then he starts seeing stuff, and he sees his mother, and he freaks out, and there's the moment where he panics and he's trying to escape, and he all this weird shit. And like we've been saying, part of the journey is the weird shit. And what is real, what isn't real? Is Mother Abigail real? Is this Randall Flagg real? And we're getting that stuff, but we're getting it drip fed, and like you said, we already know where the journey goes, so it sort of takes away from it a little bit, I think, because now we know that he makes it. But what did you think, of the sewer sequence specifically, and what led up to it? There's, like I said, there's a gang of 3, and they want Rita. They're like, well, she's the last woman left. We want her, and they try to escape through the sewers. Did they build? One of my thoughts is, was that a set? Like, I think about those kind of things, and I'm like, wow, that's impressive. The water and everything. I was like, that has to be a set, and I thought it was an impressive set.
Well, just as a little bit of a prelude, there was on Christmas Day, I had it on CBS because I was watching the news or whatever, and MacGyver came on, which I have not seen the new MacGyver, and that was a scene in the new MacGyver. So CBS must have a sewer set.
Okay, cool.
They're like, we're getting our money's worth on this set.
Well, no, but that you're right. I'm sure. I'm sure they built a set and they're using it. Or because that was my thought. I was like, wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, they built a sewer set apparently.
All right.
But I thought it was cool because it was the whole, I'll give you $15 million. I have it all right here. And for him to kind of realize that in an end game scenario where, the world's ending, money is not what you need. You need food, weapons. Like, if I had, hey, look, man, I have the last slice of pizza right here. Then you might start being able to barter with somebody. But, when he didn't give in and they were trying to escape, I was thinking, well, I don't remember seeing Heather Graham because they showed them come into the city, which goes back to a gripe. Like, how are you going to show all these characters, but then show what happens to them? Because we know they don't make it.
Yeah.
Know who does. So I was excited to see Heather Graham. I was like, oh, this is cool. Another big name, actress. And then I know she's not going to make it because you show Larry Underwood in a car with other people. That's not her. Now, it doesn't mean that some of these characters can't make it on their own in a different way or something, but to me, it killed the rest of the episode because I already knew her journey was going to end, and it bummed me out.
Well, yeah, and it ruins that because she seemed like a very easy character to get attached to. And, so you ruin some of the drama, with her potential death and everything. And that would have been had there because, like you said, we see him with an entirely different group of people. So, the assumption is, oh, she probably doesn't make it. And also, like you said, with the when they run into that group of three people and everything, and when they're further along in their journey and they've gone through the sewer and everything, and she's like, I can't do this, and he like just gives her a gun, and it's like, well then fine, I'm not going up there. And we didn't get to see so much the transition from that guy to someone who is seemingly less selfish than Larry Underwood was, pre-apocalypse and during the early days of it. We didn't get to see a transition. And, that kind of hurts it a bit. I feel like, yeah, maybe they would have had to do a longer show, perhaps even 2 seasons to explore some of these characters properly. But
I think it should have been 2 seasons.
I believe so.
Yeah, I agree. It should have been 2 seasons, maybe 8 episodes a season, something in that ballpark.
That sounds fair.
They're talking about doing multiple seasons. They're talking about exploring past what the book explored. So we may get some of that still. I don't know just yet, but that is, that's our gripe, is that they're showing this kind of in a goofy order. And in this episode, we missed out on character development. We missed out on seeing the journey of that character because now you don't really care. You don't care that he's a good guy at the end because you got to see him be a complete asshole. So you're just like, this doesn't feel right. It makes the character feel not developed. It makes you not care about a character, which to me is a hindrance to the show because you're trying to develop a, emotion with these characters, whether you like them, hate them, afraid of them or whatever. But if you don't get that journey, you don't have those feelings. You just don't care. And that's my fear, is that I'm not going to care about what happens.
They're also running into that classic problem that a lot of apocalyptic entertainment has. What was it? The 100 had it, The Walking Dead has it, in which everyone's hair looks amazing.
Yeah.
Like everyone across the board. I'm like, how the hell is everyone's hair looking so good?
That makes sense for the group living in the Walmart, but nobody else.
Well, maybe one of the people who made it through was a
Stylist.
One of the people who was immune.
Yeah, Mother Abigail made sure that every group had a stylist.
Probably. Look at her hair.
Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point.
Who's going to do up her hair? That's a job in itself.
Like those braids are maintained as hell. Like, but yeah, it's one of those things. They do look clean. They do look very clean. Like, but but yeah, my concern with this is also that, from what I read about the additional content, is that it sounds like we may not get that over the course of 2 seasons. It seems like we're going to get that within potentially the last episodes of this season. And, I feel with what we've gotten so far, that's going to feel painfully rushed. Like it's.
Yeah, because I don't know what it could be. It's like I know how it ends. And I'm like, well, what do you? I mean, I guess you could. I don't know. We'll talk about that later. I don't want to spoil the ending. Or what won't be the end. I guess maybe episode 6 or 7. Let's talk about Nadine and Joe. Nadine and Joe were introduced at the beginning of the episode. They had met up with Larry at some point. We know that Joe was found by himself. He has a guitar. He doesn't speak. Young kid. They asked Nadine to basically be his mother. We know she's a teacher, and she's holding a secret. She has one of the black stones that Randall Flagg seems to be giving away, and she's asking a lot of questions about Mother Abigail. she's even asked, you're having the dreams right too? And of course I am. So yes, similar to Harold, they're very much telegraphing uh, that Nadine is potentially going to be a problem. I don't want, like I said, I know the answers, so I'm not going to go into that here. But specifically, the performance and how it's being told. What do you guys? What are your thoughts?
I I don't feel that they showed enough of those two characters to really garner any emotions or feelings for me. They didn't give me enough other than what you just said.
Fair, yeah,
I
I agree. Yeah,
didn't I didn't they didn't give a whole lot. They were in what, like three, maybe four scenes, and
yeah.
what you said pretty much summarized everything with them. So I don't have much to say about either of those two.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And there are certain characters from the book that while I prefer they go in chronological order and we see the journey, you know, we don't necessarily need to see it for all characters. Some characters we can have those flashbacks, but we needed a point at the beginning where we hadn't made it to Colorado yet, and some of the people that come in later or come in later in the journey, we get their backstory as they appear, but for our main cast and crew, for people like Larry, like Stu and Franny and Harold, we needed to see that journey.
One character that it's fair how they did it. I think Lloyd was pretty accurate. He's a criminal. He's a shitty criminal.
I don't
I
know. It's my favorite part of the whole episode.
well, I'm saying, yeah, they did a pretty good job of getting to the point of who he is. I do love the fact that his partner in crime had a giant Florida tattoo. I couldn't stop laughing at that. Um, yeah, that was funny. So yeah, he's a criminal. He's thrown in prison, and this event occurs. Everyone's dead. He's forced into cannibalism, and then he's visited by Randall Flagg. I love the scene. I thought it was great. I really enjoy this portrayal of Randall Flagg. I know everyone has their own opinion on it. For me, I'm loving it at this point. Absolutely loving it. I love the musical choices. I love the whole way they're doing it. If there's anything that I personally say, you know what, they're doing it right. It's with him. I like the back and forth in that scene. Him telling him, making a deal with him, giving him the key. I love the RF on the key, the black stone, the whole, everything. What did you guys think of? I love real quick. He's looking at he's like, oh, it looks like one of his legs is a little, a little thinner than the other. But what did you guys think of Lloyd and Randall Flagg?
I think part of that is a casting choice. I think, and I said this last time, I think he does a great job. He doesn't just look the part. It's almost like he looks like he is playing a game. Like the way his face is, like he's trying to manipulate you. He's
And
trying.
he is, yeah.
But you see that in his face. It's almost that, like when they talk about Loki, that traitor guy trying to trick you. That's what I feel like when I look at Alexander Skarsgård's face. Like it feels like a game, and it's very well portrayed. Now, the only question I had was when Larry came to see Sister Abigail. What is Sister Abigail from?
Mother Abigail.
I know that, but Sister Abigail is from something. I don't know if that was a video game or a movie.
Sister Abigail, what is that from?
Is it
isn't that like a Wyatt thing? Like in wrestling?
Oh yes, it's it's a wrestling thing, isn't it?
Oh.
Isn't that the name of
the move?
That's his move. Yes. Damn.
I was just like, what is Sister Abigail? That sounds like something. Okay, anyway. But was the guy with the eye patch, was that Lloyd that came out?
No.
It looked okay. Well, I didn't have any theories about that. I just felt like maybe somebody else with the stone already infiltrated before Nadine. But because it looked kind of like him, but I was like, what the hell? When did you get an eye patch? They didn't show me that. So
like, and yeah,
flagging that.
Yeah, I agree. And it's the sort of thing where it's clear, to some degree what his method of operation is, that he preys on you when you're at your weakest and everything, and he takes advantage of those moments. And he's for he's for Lloyd. He's there, excusing what Lloyd did, forcing him to acknowledge it and telling him it's okay that you did what you did. Like, and preying on his weakness, and sort of priming him to do far worse, because that's what Randall Flagg does. And Loki is a good comparison. It's because Randall Flagg is like Loki if Loki's intentions were far worse. It's the sort of thing. He's there primarily as a trickster. Yeah, he has other abilities. Yeah, he could do it directly, but that's not what he does. He he corrupts is what he's doing, what he does, and that's what he did with Lloyd. He could have likely gotten out of. I'm pretty sure was well aware of where Lloyd was when, and could have gotten him out much sooner. But then, perhaps Lloyd wouldn't have been weak enough to take his offer. Perhaps Lloyd wouldn't be as grateful to Randall Flagg for freeing him. Is the thing.
But a good word to use. He's creating loyalty through favors.
Yeah.
Lloyd grateful that he saved him, and through that, through him being grateful, he's going to become loyal.
You bringing up the guy with the eye patch, that's a great example of where the out of place storytelling screws up the story, because he's a major character. You'll know him once they do his backstory, which I'm sure will be in the next episode or two. But he's a major character from the original. And
I'm just trying to remember.
Yeah, it's
30 years since I've seen it.
Exactly. But that's what's frustrating. Even him being there in that scene, it's like, oh, come on, guys. Really?
Well, yeah. And this is where I bring up Game of Thrones again. Because while the ending, you can say it, and it was bad. It was pretty bad. The journey to the ending was great, and many of us had spoilers about that episode before that happened. But the show was better for a lot of people, and you could see it on those who didn't have those spoilers from reading the books or anything.
Like, I don't want to. I mean, he's Rob Lowe from the original.
Yeah,
Rob Lowe's kid. Yeah, there you go. That's what I'm saying. It's like, wait, what?
Well, yeah. I say what I say in order to just sort of, get across the idea that for those people that are new to this series, and for even people returning, that journey is pretty good, because Game of Thrones, the Red Wedding happened, you knew it was going to happen, but it was still neat watching your family and friends just root for certain characters, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I like him too, and you didn't want to say, oh, well, I liked this character or anything. I don't know, it's one of those things that, yeah, they should have built to that as well. But as far as Randall Flagg is concerned, yeah, I do like this portrayal of Randall Flagg. I think it's working out as well as the original. And as we go further, we may even see even better. In fact, I can't really argue against anybody's acting in this. None of the acting is the problem whatsoever.
Yeah, that I definitely agree with. And the production. I was praising the sewer scenes, but the full production, having a very well done, New York City apocalyptic look, and it looked good. Having even the Colorado stuff, like all that was really well shot. The extras are doing a good job. The production on this thing is phenomenal. That I'll give them. The prison stuff looked great. The shootout in the quick stop looked great. So and the Weezer kicking in, I thought was funny. Yeah, yeah, I thought that was funny. Yeah, the production of this thing is great. I think I'm enjoying the performances. Like you said, all the lead characters, Randall Flagg, etc. Like I said, I know I've been bitching for here almost a half hour about my gripes with it, but I genuinely was sitting there and invested in every minute that was ticking by, and will continue to through the remainder of the series. But I just that's what we do on here. We give our opinions, and look, that this is bothering us, and we're kind of talking about it, and that's just the way it is.
Well, yeah, like I've said before, and we'll say again, I can pick a series apart, like every piece of it, and say I hated this, I hated that, and yet still love it. Case in point, again, on this Guardians of the Galaxy. You know, I've got gripes about literally seemingly every scene in that movie. Still liked it. Still liked it quite a bit. Enjoyed the second one.
Trying to see if there's any other points I wanted to bring up. Not really. Wayne, I thought was funny. You know, Larry had stolen a song from him or whatever, and he made it his mission that in the apocalypse, even knowing that he was going to die, he was going to go kill Larry. And I don't know, that was funny. It was a little comical. I don't know if it was intended to be funny, but it made me chuckle.
Yeah,
Well, yeah.
that hell bent on. He's like hacking his guts up, and he's just like, fucker.
Yeah, and even Larry was just kind of callously, just kind of going like, "Really, man? You know, even
Well, he's
even
like-
through all this."
Well, he's like, dude, I'm gonna get my mom in the house and then I'll be back down. Like, yeah, the way it played out, I don't know. It was dark, you know, it was a dark humor thing, you know, like it's grim and it's, you know, all these horrible things, but it's still funny. And I don't know. I like that. Like I said, I loved all the Larry stuff. I loved the hospital scene. I thought was well done. Yet again, the original. We were only getting little glimpses of the fall of society. You know, we sort of went from that scene to, you know, everyone's dead already, but you know, we're getting little glimpses. And I'm assuming in the next couple episodes we'll get even more. I figure we're about a 1 or 2 away before they, I guess, will start leading towards the mid to later parts of the book. But yeah, I enjoyed the character. The leads are great.
Well, yeah, and all the leads are great. And I guess one more thing I'd like to talk about in the show is, you know, that I think they're doing a good job of showing how Fargo and Harold is, and you know how much of a manipulator and a sociopath he is by the fact that we seem to have picked up with him from where we left off in the previous episode, in which, you know, he's just kind of losing it and writing about the fact that he wants to kill Stu and Franny, and you know he's writing all these crazy things, and you know because we hear the typewriter going, you know, as Larry's walking up to the door, and then he knocks, and you know and you know he answers the door, and he's got this grin on his face. He's being very pleasant with them, and he's clearly, you know, just hiding everything, his plans, you know, what he plans on doing. Like, but you know, I think that just shows how just sort of, yeah, how just generally how much of a sociopath and how out of it that character is, that he can just switch this on and off. You know, he's clearly not in the slightest, you know, there's not even the slightest bit of decency left in him. He's just playing a role.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I agree. Yeah, and you know, I said it last week. That he's doing a good job in that role. Definitely, his hair. I don't know what it is about his hair that bothers me. There's something off about it that's just sort of creepy.
I think it just makes him look more fucking crazy. I don't know.
Yeah.
And the fact that he constantly fixes it to make it look fucked up. Like, it's not like he's fixing it to make it look better. He's like fixing it to make it look more creepy. Like,
it's what he perceives that people think looks good.
Alien. It's like, this is normal.
Yeah, and that fits for his character. You know, this guy who sees himself as an outsider and is just really mimicking what he thinks people want him to be in order to use them, and that's what he's been doing since the beginning. You know, so yeah, even the hair is a representation of that. And I think the messed up part about it is that, you know, if he would just cut this crap out, he'd see that he mostly has what he wants now in this community. You know, he has respect. These people seem to like him. You know, he could go out, like, yeah, he can't have Franny, but he could go out and date, and he could be with someone if he would just cut all this out.
Yeah, but crazy people don't see that. And a lot of, well, without saying crazy, but like, there's a lot of mental disorders that make you hyper focus on shit. So regardless of how much he's trying to be normal, he still cannot focus on anything but Franny. And it's, to me, that points more to something being, well, I mean, there's clearly something wrong with him, but like that's, I think, is indicative of what is wrong with him.
Right. It's clearly something deeper than just Randall Flagg's influence. There's a deep-seated psychological issue there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've said about all I want to say. I think about the Stand episode 2. Do you guys have anything else you want to say before we wrap this up?
No, it's dinner time, man. I'm hungry.
Yeah, I'm good.
So yeah, this episode is up a little late. Next week's will probably be as well, but we should be back on track right after that. It's the holidays, and well, not just the holidays. A lot of crazy shit's been going on, but that's a whole other thing, and not going to go into that. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.